Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about signs and what happens when we actually recognize the signs and follow them. We'll begin by thinking about Christmas signs. So many of us decorate our homes with different kinds of symbols. Today we're going to just find out the meaning behind them. We'll begin with a quiz. So let's see if you know the meaning behind many of these signs. So the first sign is the star. What is the meaning behind it? So it's the Star of Bethlehem, which guided the wise men to Jesus. That's why we put up a star. What about lights and candles? They remind us of Jesus, who is the light of the world. So today's first reading talks about a wonderful light that was coming into the dark world. Jesus really is the light. When we see the candles and the lights in our Christmas trees, let's remember that Jesus really changes our lives if we allow him. What about the Christmas tree? In cold countries, all the plants dry up and lose their leaves, and only the evergreen trees remain green. So green is the color that stands for life. And it reminds us that, again, Jesus, who is the life. Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. So even if our bodies die, no matter what happens, Jesus gives us life. What about gifts? They remind us of the greatest gift that God gave the world, his own son, Jesus. And if you thought about the gifts that the wise men gave, that's right too. So the three wise men gave the gifts to the baby Jesus. After all, Jesus is the birthday boy, right? What about bells? So in the old days, church bells were rung to announce any good news. And on Christmas Day, the bells would ring and ring, reminding everyone of Jesus' birth. So the bells stand for good news being announced. Angels, we remember the angels who appeared to the shepherds at Christmas. That's easy. The whole sky was full of them. A wreath is made in a circle. No? There's no beginning or end to a circle. It stands for the never-ending love of God. No matter how we behave, God never stops loving us. Holly and berries. In many places, in many countries, holly is known as Christ thorn. And they remind us of the crown of thorns and of his blood. Who's this jolly fat man? Santa Claus, but it is really short for Saint Nicholas. Santa means saint. And he was a very kind and holy bishop who loved God and had a very special love for the poor. And connected to that is this symbol, stockings. We have many stockings on our wall, and all our children get things, even the big children get goodies in it. But where did this stocking come from? So the story is told that once Saint Nicholas heard about a man who was very worried because he didn't have money to get his daughters married, to pay the dowry. So one night, Saint Nicholas went with some gold coins to the house, and he found stockings hanging in front of the fireplace to dry, and he quietly dropped gold coins into the stockings. So all these Christmassy things are not just to make us say, so pretty, what a lovely house, but to remember God and to say, wow, what a wonderful God we have. So this year, as you put away your decorations, think about all these things. So today we'll be thinking about one of these signs in a special way, the star, because today we celebrate the feast of the Epiphany, which is all about this story. Now, who saw the star and what did they do when they saw it? Let's listen to the Gospel. A reading from the Gospel of St. Matthew. After Jesus had been born at Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod, suddenly some wise men came to Jerusalem from the east, asking, "Where is the infant King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and so was the whole of Jerusalem. He called together all the chief priests and the scribes of the people and asked them where the Christ was to be born. They told him, "At Bethlehem in Judea," for this is what the prophet wrote. Then Herod summoned the wise men to see him privately. He asked them the exact date on which the star had appeared and sent them on to Bethlehem with the words, "Go and find out all about the child, and when you have found him, let me know, so that I too may go and do him homage." Having listened to what the king had to say, they set out. And suddenly the star they had seen rising went forward and halted over the place where the child was. The sight of the star filled them with delight. Going into the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and falling to their knees, they did him homage. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. The word of the Lord. So, who saw the star? The wise men, yes, but everyone saw the star because the star was up in the sky for all to see. What did they do when they saw it? We know what the wise men did. They followed it, they understood the sign, they followed it, and they began to search for that new king. But the other people, all the others in the world, must have just said, "Awesome, beautiful." Or they may have just not even noticed it. They were too busy cooking and eating their dinners or visiting their friends. So the sign just went off without them understanding it. Now, in between, the star must have disappeared. So, did the wise men give up their search? What did they do? No, they didn't give up, but they went to the main city, Jerusalem, because they expected a king to be in the palace in the main city. And they began to ask about that newborn king. And there they found out that the king was to be born in Bethlehem, not in Jerusalem. What did they do finally when they found the baby? They did him homage, says the Bible. That means they treated him like a king. They bowed down and they offered him rich gifts. That's what people did when they visited a king. And one last question. Do you know what Epiphany means, today's feast? Which word explains it best? Adoration, wise men, revelation, or announcement? Take your pick. So Epiphany means revelation, because we are celebrating how God revealed himself. He showed himself not just to the shepherds, but to the whole world. That's because Jesus had come for everyone. I'd like to tell you a true story about a young woman named Lucy Tucker, who lived in America. Now, her story is like the story of the Magi, of the wise men, because she too searched and searched for meaning in life, and finally she found Jesus. Lucy said that even though she didn't know Jesus, right from the beginning, she had big questions in her heart. And she kept asking, who are we? Right from the time she was small. And why are we here? What does life mean? Why do people suffer? Maybe you have asked some of these questions. But Lucy didn't just ask the questions and then carry on with her life. She tried to find the answers. And she tried many, many different things. So she tried astrology, which is a study of the stars. And she did so well that she became a professional astrologer. But still, she was restless and she found she was still hungry. She was still unsatisfied. And so she moved on to Buddhism. She was a Buddhist for 5 years. She spent many hours meditating. She learned how to sit still, which was a good lesson. But she couldn't find the peace she was searching for. She tried the occult, she tried different types of therapy, but nothing satisfied her fully. And then at last, one day, when she was out walking, she was feeling really desperate and she tried something she had never done before. She looked up and she cried out, is anyone there? Help me. I've been following all the paths so faithfully, but every time I'm only coming to a closed door. Show me the way, open the door. And God knew that she was ready. So soon after this cry, she read an article in a magazine which showed her that all these paths she had been trying were only ways that we try to get power. And as she kept thinking about this, she realized at last there was only one person who could help her. And that was the one who had given her life. And she realized my heart was made for him. And he has loved me all through these years, even when I had given up on him. And so Lucy was baptized at the Easter Vigil in 1992. She gave her heart to Jesus. That was her gift to the baby Jesus. And she said, I have never been so deeply happy. My restless heart is resting now. My questions answered. And like the Magi, that is the wise men, I came to worship at the crib and I left astrology behind. You can read the whole story from Lucy's story from the book To the Edge of the Abyss by Lucy Tucker. Think about these two true stories of people who searched and searched and finally found Jesus. God desires you. He knows that you will only be perfectly happy when you find him and when you place your heart before him. And that's why he keeps sending you signs of his love, signs that he is alive, signs that he is watching out for you and that he wants you. Be still now. Ask Jesus, help me recognize the signs that you send me. Help me not to be so distracted that I just miss those signs. Help me to keep seeking you, Lord. Help me to bow down before you and give you my heart. Bye from Family Faith Time, and may each of you find deep happiness in Jesus. He is the star.